On this episode of Therapy Bites Art Lab.
Identify the next right move for yourself. Not the next right move that everyone else wants for you. Just identify, once you're fueled and inspired and motivated, identify what the next right move is for you and then action it.
Stay tuned following the interview for On the Couch and Off the Rocker. Our special guest's psychosilly analysis by Art Lab's own head cabbager, Dr. Ima Freudnot.
Welcome to Therapy Bites Art Lab, where Dr. Heath and his special guests share real-life stories of helping and healing, fresh from the actual therapy couch, while taking a bite out of common counseling missteps and misconceptions. And now, here's Heath and the T-Ball team.
Hey, T-Ballers, welcome to another great episode of Therapy Bites Art Lab. We're hoping to stimulate those synapses in your brains today. Our special guest in the Art Lab is Barry Nicolaou, who teaches that to understand how our very thoughts can sabotage or assist us in creating the life we want is the most pressing conversation of our time. He believes that by doing so, we not only improve our own life, but become beacons of light to those around us. His coaching experience is in the area of, and I love this, the science of creative visualization, corporate culture, talent, and retention, and the power of subconscious paradigms. And folks, those are thoughts that you're thinking, and you don't even know that you're thinking them. His international #1 best-selling book, The 11 Master Secrets to Business Success and Personal Fulfillment, was created to intersect the ideas behind economic independence and a life lived with purpose and passion. His second book, Move the Mountain, will be hot off the presses by the time you get this episode, it's there waiting for you to purchase probably on Amazon and your friendly neighborhood bookstore. Barry's here today to help us take a therapy bite, Art Lab style, out of thoughts and things and reality, 4 ways we create reality, how beliefs define experiences, and 6 steps to desired results.
Stay in the stands at the end of the interview, T-Ballers, and witness our special guest slug a bite-sized brain ball with your name all over it, clean out of the Art Lab.
And Barry, man, it's great. I'm just so glad to have you here all the way from... I think Elon Musk is building rocket ships to get there. What's the name of the planet? Australia? Planet Australia.
It is Planet Australia. We are all the way down under here. And Dr. Heath, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor to be in this space with you. The areas we're going to unpack today have helped me immensely to get from ultimate trauma and ultimate hardship to a place where we can, I guess, leapfrog back to happiness and joy and peace and love, the areas that we're all craving. So it's an absolute honor, and thank you for the first book introduction, and very excited for the second book because we dive much deeper into the science of how thoughts become things. So it's great.
Well, you know, you're singing my song. I sing that. I guess it's a sermon, a hymn, whatever you want to call it. I sing that almost every day, and it's one of my favorite things, really, to work on inside the vault of my own skull. I don't just teach others this stuff. I'm a proud practitioner and believer that thoughts do come things. I tell people all the time, reality is not made out there first. It's made inside here. Guys, I'm knocking on the vault of my skull. My wife would be amazed that there's no echo coming out. But I'm knocking on the vault of my own skull. But Barry, is that what you're saying, that that's kind of where our lives are created?
Absolutely, and it seems we've got very patient wives, just the two of us, Dr. Heath. So I think it's great, but absolutely. And I guess where it all begins, and just to consider where things are at from the get-go, from the beginning, is that approximately 3 years ago, I read an Einstein quote that really flung open the doors of curiosity for me. And this is a question that we all answer consciously or subconsciously on some level. And the question that Einstein posed was, he said, every human being on the planet must answer this question. And in answering this question, your life will go on very different trajectories, very different directions and paths. He asked that, do you believe that the world is a toxic place, or do you believe that the world is a friendly place? Now, the point of the question is not to give a long-winded, here are the examples of toxicity and here are the examples of friendliness. And Barry, I believe it's 50-50. I believe it's in the middle somewhere, That's not the point of the question. What Einstein was trying to allude to was that you've got to reduce your answer to one word. Do you believe inherently that the world is a toxic place? Is it a toxicity for you or is it a friendliness? And the reason behind the answer and the reason behind the question is that once you start going down a certain path, be it from healing or be it to find more joy and more love, if you put the strategies and the framework in place, but you inherently deep down believe that the world is a toxic place, then it doesn't matter what framework you build, your house will fall. You have to have a certain solid concrete base underneath your foundations to be able to build your framework. So if you are craving these beautiful feelings of joy and love and understanding and tolerance and patience, then you have to come from a place of friendliness. Now, the other thing I will say is if you are on the side of toxicity, that's okay because you've been absolutely honest. And I think that's a great place to start. But what I'd ask those people to do, if you are looking at the world and you're saying, oh, Barry, the world's going in a horrible place. Look what's happening in Russia. Look what's happening with the impending recession. Look what's happening with COVID. Look what's happening. And you give me examples. What you're also doing is you're not balancing any scales with the inherent good that often goes unnoticed by almost all of us because the fear is screaming so loudly. Now, in my past, anything that screams loudly has an inferiority complex, usually. Things that don't need to scream and shout are just there under the surface waiting for you to absorb and grab and make part of your own being. So it's very important that you answer that question for yourself before any type of, in my opinion, any type of therapy, any type of understanding where you want to go. You have to get to that question and answer that question. Do you believe the world is toxic or do you believe the world is friendly? You have to find a way to get to the friendly ground. You have to find a way. And the way I do that is I look at situations, scenarios, people that are in the world right now that I'm not privy to, that is happening under my nose. I'm just not paying attention to them. So that is leading me down a fear-based path just because I'm not paying attention to I guess the good things that are happening.
Now, can you say that that's leading you down what kind of path?
So you have to understand that you have to balance the equation, Dr. Heath. You can't just say the world's a negative place and remain on the side of toxicity if you want to create a love-based life. So I balance my views with the good things that are happening in the world right now to lead me down a path that lets me know that the peace that I'm after is possible.
Well, there's two things I want to say, and if you don't care, I mean, I really want to.
Please.
I really want to play devil's advocate, so to speak. Please. Because first of all, I'm completely on board with this, guys. Barry and I are really neuronal twins. He kind of sounds like he has some of the same brain cells that I do, which would be very scary to both of our wives, but he does. But even said, I want to also be realistic. Because what I anticipate hearing people that I work with say is, well, yeah, okay, that sounds really nice, except for that's you, that's not me. I mean, maybe you've got something I don't. Maybe you just notice stuff differently than I do. Maybe you're raised differently than I was. And for holy smokes, Barry, every time you turn the TV on, you don't get unicorns, rainbows, and butterflies. Absolutely, you get the nastiest stuff that you see. So my first question is, how would we expect people to do what you're saying when I don't know, I guess it's kind of like going to a restaurant and the only thing on the menu is negativity.
So do you have other restaurant choices in the neighborhood?
I love that. Good for you.
I also believe for the person that says that that's you, that's your upbringing, I guess what you got to answer for, and this is not just for that person, this is for all of us. Is healing possible for me? I just need you to get to that point.
You know, a lot of
And,
people are going to say no, though. A lot of people are going to say,
well,
I don't think it's possible for me. People really, I don't know what it is. I don't know. I think that we just become blinded to what we're capable of. But then again, that's what
mhm.
you're here for, and that's what I'm here for. But
Well,
do you find people that they really just can't see it?
it's not so much that the end result is that they can't see it, but I promise you, there's probably years and years and years of subconscious programming there that has blinded them to the potential of healing. And whether that be the family members we hang around, the news cycles we watch, the restaurants we eat at, the consistent circle of toxicity that we feel comfortable with, that has become familiar and habitual, then we don't see out of that sphere. It's quite interesting, Dr. Heath. I keep talking about the ground view and the aerial view. When you're in an aeroplane, you look down, you can see the whole city, right? But when you're driving your car, you can see approximately a mile ahead, right? We're sitting in our cars thinking that we've got a grasp of the city. We don't.
Yeah.
We don't. We don't know what healing is available for us, but we've got to be open to that type of conversation. I'm not saying jump to healing. I'm just saying, okay, Barry, I've bought what you're selling me. I'm interested to know what the next right move would be for me. What would that look like, do you think? And then it might be to forgive yourself, or it might be
Uh,
to forgive a friend, or it might be to realize that every mistake you think you've made is getting you back to more love. It's getting you back to a tolerance of humanity, which means that you're going to be less judgmental on yourself.
oh, I
You're not going to,
completely agree. I see that as
yeah,
a big problem. We think that
yeah,
the problem is judging others, but I find that we really first judge ourselves, and then that
absolutely,
catapults into being so judgmental of others.
absolutely,
And those of you that watch
absolutely.
this later on YouTube, which we're working hard to get those posted, and it'll take a little bit to get this
Mm,
posted, but we will, is what we in the
mm,
Art Lab call a underthinking ant. And I'll describe him to you for those listening. It's a little ant, and that is spelled A-N-T, which stands for automatic negative thought. And I
love
have
it.
people talk about overthinking. In my experience, Barry, I've never really ever in 38 years run into somebody that I thought too much about something. It's really the opposite. They ignore important aspects of the situation. They ignore all the things
Mm,
about themselves which are
mm,
notable, their skill set, their abilities, their place in the world. They really underthink positive aspects, healthy aspects of themselves. And the underthinking ant there has a telescope pointed straight down, and it can't see anything else. And I find
mm,
a lot of
mm,
my job is to help widen people's view where they can see other things. And to that point, I want to go to Barry's
mm.
fantastic goosebump story, his graveyard goosebump story amongst the tombstones. Tell us about that.
Are you sitting down? I hope
I
so.
am. I'm on the couch, man.
I see it. I hope everyone else is sitting down as well. So a quick version of it. It was 2015, and I was in the shoe industry, like selling shoes to retail stores in Sydney, Australia. And I got a phone call in the car, and my customer said, "Barry, I'm running late. I need you to delay my appointment 1 hour." And I'm like, "No problem. I can do that." And Dr. Heath, what happened next felt surreal. My car steered itself. It felt like it steered itself inside this beautifully appointed cemetery in the northwestern suburbs of Sydney, Australia. I don't know anyone that's buried there. I've got no connection to this place. Just wanted to kill the hour, pardon the pun, more or less. So as I park my car, I get out and I'm walking amongst this, as you eloquently put it, these graves of granite and stone, and I'm reading the years that people were born and people died, and you realize something quite profound. You realize that there weren't 80s and 90-year-olds. There were 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds in those graves. And I thought to myself, this is really surreal. A lot of us feel this at funerals, like you get this sense of resetting intention when you go to a funeral because you take inventory of your life. But this happened just at this graveyard by myself. And as I leant up against my car, I was in a place of total frustration, total vulnerability, total sadness. I was angry at myself. I felt like my life amounted to nothing. I wasn't lighting up what I was here to do, the purpose that I felt inherently that I was really, that I guess what lit me up inside. I wasn't doing that. So then I let up against my car and I felt three words. They weren't communicated like the way we're speaking today. They were felt. They were felt on a soul-based level, and I still, going back now, it gives me goosebumps to consider this. The three words were "live your life," and I thought that's not really that exciting. I mean, I am living my life. So if you want to give me something, give me the lottery numbers. Don't give me these three words that mean nothing, right? So I dismissed it. I thought it was just gobbledygook. I got back in my car frustrated. That was my God moment. And it was nothing. It didn't make sense. Live your life. What does that even mean? So I went to my appointment. I went home that night, didn't tell my wife, just went to bed. 3 a.m. in the morning, I wake up in a cold sweat, and the word your, Y-O-U-R, was glowing in my mind, like live your life. Don't live a life based on somebody else's opinion. And I thought, what did that actually mean? Live my life. So I got up and I just started writing. And Dr. Heath, you know what happens when you start writing, and from a place of inspiration, it was just a brain dump of what lit me up. And I started to research people that had come from ultimate trauma, ultimate tragedy, ultimate depression, and have made this peace and love and tolerance and joy a part of their life. And I wanted to know how they did that, because if they could do that, then the rest of us don't really have an excuse, because they've come from ultimate disability, like mental disability in some cases, to come to this place of love and peace and acceptance. And I just started writing. After a year of 6 a.m. mornings, I had this thing that looked like a book. I know no one in the publishing industry. I know no one who can get this thing done. And I get a random Facebook message. We publish books. If you have a manuscript, we'd love to hear from you. And I thought, that's random. So I get in touch, met a publisher. Oh, the way the universe works. And then we get to Amazon. We had a campaign. We got to #1 in, I believe, 6 countries and 19 categories on Amazon, an online course, and now helping corporations through the pandemic. So it's ended up, and I guess this is what I want to ferret out in everyone listening. When you feel that you're on your purpose and on your path that was made for you, when you're doing something that lights you up, the green lights happen often and they happen quickly. Where I find, and where the people that I coach, what I find is when there's a constant stream of red lights, you have to also look where the green lights are in your life and make sure that those scenarios are being pushed forward by you as much as possible, and not necessarily stay stuck and blocked at a red light. Some people stay at red lights for years and decades, and to the detriment of all the other good things that they've potentially got going on in their lives. So it's really important that if you've got red lights and if you've got green lights, make sure you're pushing the green lights forward, even though you might be stuck at a red as well.
Wow.
So that's the story.
That's amazing. I've got one thing to say to that. That's just magical. It really is. It really is. You know, I don't have, gosh, that's incredible. I think that those serendipitous moments come if you're open to them. And
Absolutely.
I don't think that you get to them in the rush of busyness. I think you have to I don't know.
Slow
I think you have
down.
to quieten yourself, which is why I recommend mindfulness so much. A quick story. I'll have, since you said that, it just kind of brings this to mind is my dad had gotten killed in a work-related accident, and I was grieving very deeply over him. And I was driving to a consultation gig in another city, and I was so depressed. I was just really so depressed, which, by the way, you T-ballers, you know that I don't catastrophize depression. Goodness, if your loved one dies, what would you expect to be, jumping barrels or something? I mean, I think depression is part of that, and I don't catastrophize it, just a normal part of life. But I looked up and I noticed a cloud bank in a bright blue sky, backlit by the sun. And it dawned on me, even though I've been a lover of clouds and just the sky in general since I was a small kid, I would lay on my back under a Formosa tree and just watch the clouds and pirate ships and sailing ships and dragons pass by in the form of clouds in the sky. I had noticed one in, almost a year. I just had not noticed one. And it was a surreal experience. I looked up and I said, I don't remember if I said this out loud or I said it in my head. I really don't recall. But I said it just the same. Gosh, that is beautiful. And this voice, and no, it wasn't a booming voice that, a pastor could have heard, but to me, it was a booming voice. And the voice said this, it said, I know. That's why I made it for you. I know. That's why I made it for you. And I had this vision of my dad, and you guys listening, you're welcome to your belief system. I'm a respecter of all belief systems. This is just mine. Adopt it if it helps. If not, that's okay. Fast forward, we'll get onto something in a few seconds. But I had this vision of my dad whispering in the ear of the Creator, hey, why don't you call his attention to this cloud bank? Why don't you make a cloud for him? I know what my son needs today. He needs a big cloud backlit by the sunshine. And I really did. So my point is, guys, the story that Barry told and the story that I'm telling, those things happen, but you have to make space in your life for those. If all you're doing is connecting the dots, and now's this dot, and I'm on to the next one, if it's just a series of endless activity, you're going to miss that stuff. But and I'm tugging my earlobe, but if you listen, those things will happen.
For full show notes and transcript of today's episode, go to therapybites.podbean.com.
Individual psychological concepts are very different animals from one another. And while they are often readily observable in the wild, the TherapyBites Art Lab Zoo affords us a unique opportunity to study them in a safe and controlled environment. Welcome to the TherapyBites Art Lab Creature Feature. Oh, good heavens!
Come all, witness the amazing, unbelievable, magnificent, undeniable inaccuracies of the fortune-telling gnat. Welcome to this episode's Creature Feature T-Ball team. I am your host, as always, Safari Sarah, and today we are talking about the fortune-telling gnat. Now this gnat, negative automatic thought that is, believes that he can see the future. He knows exactly what's going to happen and that it's going to be horrible. So anytime I have the thought of going to the store and I'm thinking it's going to be busy, people are going to be rude, I'm not going to get what I need, well, how in the world would I know that? It's going to bring about a lot of anxiety, that way of thinking, and by doing that, I'm telling myself I know exactly what's going to happen, but I really don't. Telling ourselves we know what's going to happen when we don't can keep us from many things. It can keep us from communicating in a healthy way with family members, loved ones, significant others. It can keep us from enjoyable things. We may decide to not go to an event because we think we know it's going to turn out horribly, and it could have been a blast. We have no idea. See, as humans, we don't know the future, so why would we tell ourselves we do? Next time you have that happen, listen to A.R.T, Accurate Realistic Thoughts. figure out, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm fortune telling. I don't know what's going to happen, so let's go and find out. I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode, T-Ballers, and I will catch you in the next Creature Feature.
Thank you for joining us for the TherapyBites Art Lab Creature Feature.
You're listening to Therapy Bites Art Lab, bite-sized therapy for your brain with Dr. Heath and the T-Ball team. The best advice on the net. No copay required.
You're slipping beneath the cushions of your bobble-headed psychotherapist's couch, leaving behind empty, echoing, cushy, comforting, pseudo-psychological claptrap, moving into a deeper dimension of your own mind, where distorted thinking, hurting, hopelessness, and regret evaporate into clarity, healing, renewed hope, and newfound resilience. That's the podcast sign up ahead. Your next stop, Therapy Bites Psych Secrets.
Hey, you T-ballers out there, come on in close and take a listen to this. This is Doc Heath undercover and in disguise with Psych Secrets. We're talking about porcupines and prickly people. You know, porcupines are famed for their quills, aren't they? But these are actually large, stiff hairs that help defend the animal against natural predators. Now, contrary to popular notions, the large rodents can't throw their quills at an enemy. According to Jeffrey Karp, a bioengineer at Harvard Medical School in Boston, let's apply this to relationship interactions. We often believe that someone who's being a bit prickly is just about us, because of us, directed at us. But let's look a bit more deeply beyond those prickly quills, shall we? Consider this. Since we know that it is cognitions or thoughts that manufacture both emotion and behavior, not other people, when someone's being a bit prickly, it's because they are interpreting something as a threat to them. Unless you are that threat, then it is not at you that those prickly fins are being raised, but because of the own person's prickly thought processes. As a result of a person's own thinking, they enter a protective posturing and all the quills are activated in a protective response. But be careful to understand this also. The response is protective, not projective. Nothing is being thrown at you. Nothing is being hurled back at you, because of you, at you, and certainly not another person's quills of catastrophization. Psychotherapy Duck says, quack, quack, wisen up, don't take it personally. Another person's behavior is because of that person's thinking. Don't be sidetracked by the quills of catastrophization. My, doesn't that sound like a great title to a really, really freaky horror movie? Doc Heath and Psychotherapy Duck say enjoy the rest of the episode.
Once again, Doc Heath rips the cushions from the couch, dishes the dirt, lets the cat out of the bag, uncorks the bottle, letting the genie escape, and blows the lid off of another of the universe's psych secrets.
Show your T-Ball team spirit and buy your hardworking Art Lab team a cup of coffee, which helps fuel purchases of high-octane equipment and T-Ball tech that get poured back into percolating, highly caffeinated content for you. Just go to buymeacoffee.com and search Therapy Bites.
Here's Heath and the T-Ball team.
And I really appreciate Barry sharing that story. That is a fabulous story. I'll steal that from him. I'll give you credit so we don't have to get the attorneys involved. I'll give you credit for it. And I'll say, hey, a friend of mine, Barry Nicolaou, told me this story.
You're more than welcome to.
And maybe this can help your life. And by the way, he's got a book. Well, tell us, given that experience, what would you say is the main thing that you bring to, there's a lot of stuff out there in listening to the subconscious and restructuring your thoughts and the power of creating reality from the gray matter of your brain. But what do you think is different about you? What do you bring differently to that space than others in the field?
So I guess if you have a pad and pen out, I'd love to give you a scenario, and this is a little bit scientific, but if it makes sense scientifically, then the left part of your brain will probably start believing it and understanding that this is actually real. This is what's going on in the world. We're just blind to it. So if you consider matter, so skin and bone, so touch your hand or touch your partner's arm and you feel them and you say, well, Barry, they're real. I can feel them. That's real. That's tangible reality. And you go to the doctor and the doctors say, well, Barry, inside matter is cells. And you go, well, I can buy that. There's cells inside matter. And then you go deeper still and you say, well, doctor, what's inside cells? And the doctor will say, well, Barry, you have molecules inside cells. And I can buy that as well. So then you go down deeper still because you're curious about where your thoughts come from. And you say, well, what's inside molecules? And what you'll find is atoms. And we've all heard of atoms. And that's exciting. So what's inside atoms here? Let's go down deeper still. And what you find inside atoms is subatomic particles. Now, because you're a curious soul, you want to go into subatomic particles and go down further into how thoughts become things. And you find inside subatomic particles these little things called quarks, Quarks. You can Google them and have a look at what they actually are. Now, quarks shift molecular structure through what we call the observer effect. So just by looking at them through an electron microscope, they will shift and you will say, how are they shifting like that? How are they changing like that? And from all the research that I can find, and this is in my next book that's coming out on the 7th of February, the only thing that can make quarks shift is thought. Thought influences quarks, which influences subatomic particles, atoms, molecules, cells, up the food chain to matter. So when we say thoughts become things, that's the science. So all the way down to a quark energy-based level. So if you have a thought, you currently have some 75 trillion cells in your body. If you believe that something is the way that it is and there's no changing it, then what you are telling those quarks is that this is the way that it is and nothing will change it. The person standing next to you will say, well, I don't know if that's exactly true. I've done this and I've got this result. And then their only recourse is to say, well, you've had a different upbringing. Or no, you were born on that side of the river, so that means that your parents taught you that. No, we all have the same amount of cells in our body. The only thing that we don't have sometimes is we don't have the vehicle, the mechanisms to be able to know that the healing that we want is available. It is available. Whether we take it or whether we leave it, totally up to us. But it is there. And I think that's what's important to note. Now, one other thing that I really, really want to ferret out as an example here. The soil will not reject a weed. So if you go outside to your garden right now and you ask the soil, why would you grow a weed? The soil will say, because I nurture expansion. That's what I do. The soil has sunlight, it has nutrients, it has moisture. It nurtures all expansion. The subconscious mind operates in exactly the same way. We are the gardener of our own minds. Whatever seed we plant, we will give expansion to. And you know what? Sometimes we grow ugly plants and sometimes we grow beautiful plants. So what sort of garden do you want? And this is the question. You have to make sure that you understand that you are the creator of your own experiences. You can create the future that you want. If it's a economic freedom, if it's I want to find the right partner, if it's I want to heal from cancer, how do I do that? Are there people in the world that have healed from cancer? How did they do it? I want to learn more about this. I want to understand it more. Is it possible for you to learn these things? Yes, it is. And then you keep giving the subconscious mind examples of its truth. All of a sudden, the subconscious mind buys the notion that healing is possible, that the economic freedom, that's possible as well. Finding a great partner that you can share life with, that's possible. Getting over my prejudices, that's possible. So you start to realize that there's all these possibilities. The only thing that stops us is our own ego saying we either don't deserve it, or we either can't have it for whatever reason, or we think that we're not worthy of the healing. And deep down, my experience has been people don't feel worthy of the desires that they want. So they will always have this duality of conversation. I want this, but I know in my heart I'm not deserving of it. So what do you think people receive? They receive the stronger desire, which is I'm not deserving of it. So until what you mean and what you say are at the same parity, are at the same level, then you'll always have disparity of wanting this, but really receiving this because this is where you live. So for me, get to a stage where you, with an open heart and with confidence and this beautiful soul that you are, get to a point where you say, I am deserving of this. Why? Because I am a spark of divinity. And I believe in God. And if we are of the same lineage, we are of the same lineage as God. And He created the world from nothing. So our 60 to 70 to 80 years on this planet is a way that we demonstrate that lineage. That's how we can create from thought. But whether most of us get stuck behind a negative narrative, or whether we open our hearts and minds to something that we don't quite know or understand yet, then those two paths will be going down two very different narratives in your life. And I've been down the negative one, and I'll tell you, Dr. Heath, it ends up being a dark road. And it takes away from the energy that I can place into forward-moving projects, people that I can impact, beautiful podcasts like this, new books that I want to write. You end up facilitating, you be a light for the world. And then other people will say, well, Barry did it. I want to try and do that as well. You end up leading by example, which is the crux of
and
how
you know, I fully believe that there are people out there listening to this right now that Barry can never reach and I can never reach, but listener, you are positioned perfectly to reach that person. And
Absolutely.
What a tragedy it would be if you don't come to think of yourself in an accurate way in order to help those people by reaching those people.
Absolutely. You know, I was given the most beautiful compliment about 3 weeks ago from a podcast that I was on in New York City. And the gentleman at the end of our podcast, Dr. Heath, he said to me, Barry, I want to thank you for the people that you'll never meet. And it actually made me emotional.
Wow.
Because I've never thought of it in that way. He said, you're never going to meet my listeners. A lot of them you're not going to know.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to thank you on behalf of them. And I thought it was the most heartfelt, deep, beautiful, selfless thing to say. And I've never forgotten it.
Amazing. I completely agree. I completely
Yeah.
agree. You know, I was this morning on my morning run thinking, these thoughts just come to me usually when I'm running, actually, which is a good reason to run. But I was thinking, because we've had a few podcasts on suicide, and we just put up our first video very hesitantly because YouTube is very strict on graphic material, and even though it's educational. And I was thinking about this because I have so many people, or through my 38 years in the business, I've had so many people think about suicide or killing themselves, to put a finer edge on it, because they think that their life has no meaning. And here's a thought that came to mind for you, listener, to know that your life has no meaning. You would have to go back in history and interview every person who ever knew that you existed, and ask them if your life to them had no meaning. Every single one of them, even the people that were watching you at Walmart, the people watching you at the filling station, the gas station. I guess in Australia that's the petrol station, is it?
Spot on.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you'd have to interview these people. Number two, you'd have to go out and do a survey of all those who've ever heard of your existence today. And lastly, you would have to travel into the future to all the people that you might have the opportunity to know about you, and to use a phrase from Clarence the Angel from the fabulous Jimmy Stewart movie It's a Wonderful Life. Without you helping those people create meaning in their life, what an awful hole in the universe that would leave if there were no you.
Beautiful.
There's supposed to be a you. And as I said in an earlier podcast, there's not supposed to be more than one of you. And back to our wives, my wife is glad there's only one of me. I mean, two would be redundant. One Doc Heath is plenty. But but there's not supposed to be one of you, because one is enough. Yeah. But for that, really for that one to be enough, you must completely and fully fill the space. And I'm doing my hands as if it's a amoeba space. You must fully fill that space by finding your meaning. And one more quick thing, since Barry brought up the G word, the God word, and I'm a believer. I'm a believer, and that's okay if you're not. No offense. One of my favorite people in the whole world was at one time the world's most famous atheist, Sir Anthony Flew, F-L-E-W. I studied him in undergraduate school, and I think it was maybe 8 or 10 years before he died, he became a Christian, because the world's most famous atheist decided that atheism no longer made sense to him, and he became a Christian. And he wrote a book about it. I think it's called How the World's Most Famous Atheist Became a Christian. But if you're not a Christian, if you're not a believer, if you're an atheist, I'm good with that. We make our own choices. But the point I want to make is this for you believers is, I guess it's been around a long time, but I remember reading in high school Jonathan Smith's Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. And Jonathan points out, has an image of a poor hapless soul dangling from a thread, I think it is, and God ready to snip the thread. And guys, you believe what you want. I do not believe that is how God looks at us. No, I do not believe that is what God intends for us. As a parent, I have come to believe that God looks at me as I look at my son. I would do anything for him. I want the best for him. And it's even in the scripture. What parent, and I'm paraphrasing, what parent, if their child asked for bread, would hand them a stone? Look, guys, God is not out there to get you. God is not Zeus in the sky ready to zap you with a lightning bolt, as much as I like Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief and Rick Riordan's work on that, I think it was. As much as I like that, that's just not theologically accurate. God, the creator of the universe, wants the very best for you, but here's the hitch, and it's a big hitch. God, the creator, is also the engineer of free will.
Exactly.
He will not force you to do things that are healthy for you. He will not interfere with the soil of your cortices. I'm pointing at my brain here, of your cortical crevices, so that you only plant healthy things. He leaves that garden up to you, and that's what Barry is trying to share with us today. Barry, tell us what are, and maybe you've already touched on this, but what are 4 ways that you think we create reality?
Okay, so we'll use an apple pie as an example here, because it's an innocuous example. It's something we can all relate to. We've all had a bit of apple pie now and then. So I want you to consider the apple pie, but in various scenarios of your life. You know, it doesn't have to be an apple pie. It can be whatever you want to achieve, right? So what's the first way we can get an apple pie? Like, the first way we can get an apple pie, if we crave it right now, is to go and buy it, right? We go down to the local bakery or the local shopping center or whatever it is, and you hand over some money and they will give you an apple pie. Now, that's pretty understandable, right? So what's the second way that you can get an apple pie right now? The second way you can get an apple pie is by, you and I, Doc, are actually sitting at a cafe, and you slide $10 over the table. You said, Barry, I'm craving an apple pie. can you run across the road for me and see if you can get me the apple pies? I'm like, no problem, I can do that for you. So I go inside the bakery and I get the apple pie and I bring it back. That's the second way to get an apple pie for you, Dr. Heath. Let's just say. The third way, can you just have a little think now of what the third way to get an apple pie is? The third way is when we're talking about the subconscious mind, creative visualization, and bringing what you want into your experience while working towards it. The third way is you and I are sitting down at a park bench and an apple pie truck comes past our little bench with tooting his horn and saying, we sell the best apple pies in the world. And you look at me and I look at you and I say, didn't you just want an apple pie? And it's come to you. So that's when we talk about attracting and setting up experiences in our future by the thoughts that we have today. So wanting those thoughts for healing, for economic freedom, whatever, planting those seeds, that's the third way to get your apple pie. The apple pie ends up coming to you. The fourth and last way, humanity is heading in this direction, but we're not just yet, where we put out our hand and we wish for an apple pie and all of a sudden it materializes with a cherry on top. They are the only four ways to get an apple pie. Now, the fourth way could sound a little bit gobbledygook, but that is the way that humanity is heading. And if we are from divine lineage, if we are from God himself on this little blue pearl, and no other planet like us that we can see, then it's pretty special that we're here, right? And if we come from a powerful creator like we do, then we are heading in the direction of that way. Just like a son ends up biologically inheriting some of the father's traits as he grows older, we will also, as a species, biologically inherit the traits of our divine creator. Now,
I wonder if you're talking about way number 4, if we're just not ready for that. I had a theology teacher.
We're not.
And by the way, my theology professor's name, get this, was Dr. Holier.
Holier than thou.
I kid you not. He was fantastic. I miss him. I loved his classes. I was my favorite thing to do. You could ask me to go to a keg party. I'd rather go to one of Dr. Holder's classes. But we were talking one day in class. He said, human beings have a limitation on enjoyment. He said, think about it. Is there anything in your life, no matter how much you like it, that you can imagine doing it every waking hour, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for, 78, 80 years on the planet? He said, even playing baseball, as much as you might like that, he said, we just have a limitation on our ability to enjoy it. There's actually a quote that pleasure to an extreme always becomes pain. Pleasure to the extreme always becomes pain. And his point was, we're just not engineered currently for absolute pleasure. And I think what Barry's talking about, that may be in our future, that may be our inheritance as believers, as children of the Creator, but we're not ready for it. But I think we can get ready for it. I think that's the whole point of life. I think all of life is a training ground to prepare ourselves, almost like if we're getting ready to compete for the Olympics. You got to be ready for it. You got to be ready for it. I think that's a fantastic breakdown there. That's fabulous. So beliefs define experiences. I think I read that somewhere in your bio, how beliefs define experiences.
Absolutely.
How do my beliefs actually influence the experience that I get?
Well, if you think about, let's do a little test. And for those people listening, just try this out. Consider that every experience you've had to date was once a belief before it made its way into your reality. Like, do you believe that people lose their job suddenly? Have you experienced it? Do you believe that marriages happen? Have you experienced it? Do you believe that divorces happen? Have you experienced it? Do you believe, do you believe people get cancer, after 40, 50 years, 60 years dealing with mental issues, and then that manifests in the body as some kind of physical disease? Do you believe that happens? Like, look at everything that has led up to your decisions today and who you are as a human being, and ask yourself if there was a belief at some point in your past that you've absolutely fertilized with emotional gratitude or with emotional feelings. Essentially, what you're doing is watering a specific seed, and then we become quite perplexed why that seed has grown into the plant that we don't necessarily want. Well, because we've fertilized those plants. Now, what causes us to fertilize seeds that we don't want to grow? Habitual thinking, not being discerning about the thoughts that we allow to enter and fertilize with emotion. And the classic example, let's imagine how bad things can be. Why would you want to do that? Like, are you for real? And if you do that, then why don't you balance the scales and say, well, okay, we've gone down that road. Now let's imagine how good things can turn out if it went all the way. Well, that would be a fair assessment. That would be a mind with perspective and clarity. But what we tend to do is we consistently entertain worst case scenarios, and then when worst case scenarios end up manifesting, we're perplexed. Well, we've been considering them for years, and it's crazy.
We've almost been training for those.
We've
been training for these calamities.
Yeah, and then, it's happened. I knew life was going to treat me badly.
Yeah.
You don't understand. But, well, hang on. Go back to the last 20 or 30 years. What plants have you been watering?
They say confession is good for the soul. My wife and I, this summer, will have been together for 40 years, 4 decades we've been together.
Wow.
And I'll just have to confess that I find that to be so true, that my mindset will sculpt as if I'm sculpting Michelangelo's David, just a much uglier statue. I will sculpt our next interaction in a way that is negative. And I'm perplexed that I keep on doing that, but I'm really working hard at it. I think we might have it tackled after 40 years, but it's still hard work. But that is so true that people routinely sculpt by how you carve up your own thought processes, the experience between you and another human being.
Absolutely. The good thing is it works for good as much as it works for the darkness. Like in one sense, because if you can buy the notion that continued stress, like chronic stress, after years and years and years, manifests as illness in the body. Like, if you can buy that, you go to the doctor and you say this person has cancer, and you say, well, what caused the cancer? And the doctor usually says, ongoing stress, a lack of sleep, bad nutrition, no exercise. But usually stress is the catalyst that makes all those other poor choices happen as a consequence. Right. So you get to a stage where you think, okay, well, if that's true and I buy that, then there has to be a flip side to that coin. Then the flip side is, can positive affirmations, belief in love, tolerance, non-judgment, good exercise, good nutrition, good sleep, surrounding myself with the right people, can they have the adverse effect? And the answer is a resounding yes, but it's where we choose to live. Do we want to live there, or do we feel that it's an easier path to stick on the side of, life sucks, or life's hard, or life's, Barry, you don't understand my situation. No one understands my situation. Are we stuck in that mindset, or are we open to, okay, Barry, I know I don't quite know all the answers yet, but I know that it's possible for me to be healed. I know it's possible. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I know it's possible.
And I want to insert at any stage of life, I don't care if you're 40, 50, 60, 70, 90, it is never too late to adopt a new, improved, accurate lifestyle of thinking. at any age.
Absolutely.
At any age. They say you
Absolutely.
can't teach old dogs new tricks. Listen, old dogs learn new tricks on a regular basis. If you go adopt a geriatric dog, and by the way, I want to encourage you guys, do that. Go adopt an older dog. Puppies are great, but go give an older dog a chance. Here's what you're going to see happen. That dog will adapt its thinking to the way your house works. It will learn where the door is. It'll learn where the refrigerator is. It'll learn what time you go to bed. That is an old dog learning new tricks. There is an amazing plasticity to the brain that is adaptable until death. So don't underthink it. Here at the end of the episode, and we could keep Barry here all night. Barry, what time is it where you are?
We have, what time is it? It is 10 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow. Well, we could keep me here all night because it's almost 6 o'clock. But let me get you to share with us 6 steps. You have 6 steps to desired results.
So the first thing you've got to do is identify your desire. Now, a lot of people identify what they don't want. That's not the same thing. You got to identify, you got to tell me what you want, laser specific. I need you to tell me what you want. And if your answer is just to be happy, do you have a metric in place that lets you know what that means for you? Because everyone's definition of happiness is different. The second is you've got to know that that's possible. So what I do is I look at examples in the world of people that have already achieved what I want: healing, economic freedom, love, anything, a holiday that you want to go on, whatever. How do people achieve these things? The answer is yes. So now I think, well, this is a real thing. It's not something that I'm just making up. The third is when we get into subconscious thought, you have to feel the feeling of that in your bones. What does that actually mean for you? So I go into a meditative prayer state every morning and every evening. And when I'm in theta, which is a brain wave frequency, I start to feel the feeling of that future that I want as real now. And as we all know, and Doctor, you would know this yourself, the subconscious mind cannot make the difference between a real event and an imagined event felt vividly. It cannot make the distinction. It is happening in real time for it. So it doesn't know that it's not real. So you just continually feel the feeling of it real right now. Now, if you can feel that feeling for 20 seconds, you make a subconscious impression that this is actually a truism in your life. So feeling the feeling is very important. The fourth area is to release doubt and toxicity from your life. You've got to, if you do the first 3 things really well and you leave toxicity and doubt at its current levels in your life, you're not moving. You're just treading water. So you've got to look at food, exercise, sleep, news cycles, any type of social media that's having a negative effect on your life, whatever it is. Identify it, view it, and either cut it out dramatically or tone it back to a level where it's not impacting you as much. Very important that you decide to do that. The fifth area is to release the timing of things. You know what's interesting? Try and force a flower to open and try and force the waves of the ocean to come in when you want them to come in, not when the rhythmic balance of the earth wants them to come in. You cannot do it. You've got to trust the timing that as you work towards something, that it will happen. The epiphany, the scenario will happen in perfect timing for you. And you have to trust that. Life is a beautiful tightrope between making things happen and allowing them to take place for you. That's the tightrope we have to walk. So if it's not happening, just let Providence do its job. And the last area is to embrace that new reality. So once you've achieved what you want and you've healed, or you've got the economic freedom, or you've found your beautiful soulmate, or whatever it is, that you know that you can get bigger if you want to. You can apply the same 6 principles in any area of life. You just start from the beginning. Define your desire. Know the possibility. Feel the feeling. Release further toxicity and doubt. Release the timing and embrace it again. So you just keep running through that system.
Wow.
And it's just incredible. It's just really, really beautiful. if you can embrace
Thank you
it.
so much. Thank you so much. And just a few more seconds here, Barry. In about 10 seconds, I know you share with us so much, but share with us your favorite top secret subconscious hack.
T-ballers, time to quit your lollygagging. Get out of the dugout, onto the field, and live the art life.
My subconscious believes that anything is possible.
Wonderful.
I know that might sound esoteric, but it's true. If you can think about it, you can create it. So
I have a saying, everything is figure-outable. Everything is figure-outable. Folks, for more from Barry, you can go to www.barrynicolaou.com. That is BarryNicolaou.com. I'll put that in the show notes for your easy access. And Barry is available for corporate and personal one-on-one work, which are a must for those that want to dig deeper into this experience of living. One last thing, we'll let Barry go. We'll go deep under the dark recesses of the therapy couch and ask Barry a question we have curated for him. Kind of I'm a Freudnaut style. Here we go.
We journey now with Doc Heath as he submerges with our special guest into the depths beneath the dark recesses of the therapy couch.
And I'll pull this out here and see what Barry has to say about this. Barry, imagine you are a subconscious sailor of sorts, a subconscious sailor. If you could sail into the subconscious mind of anyone, alive or dead, who would it be? And what part of their psyche would you fiddle-faddle with to affect change?
So the person that comes to mind and the catalyst for me on this journey was Dr. Wayne Dyer. God rest his soul. So I think he died in 2015, or he passed over in 2015. He was the catalyst for me. And the part of his psyche, this is going to sound strange, but how did he manage to be a dad to 8 people, to eight children?
Wow.
And pen over 40 books.
Wow.
With thousands of lectures, thousands of YouTube clips, literally, his first book, Your Erroneous Zones, 100 million copies.
Wow.
Like how did you do all of that? You almost felt like you've got life sorted out. And I've got 2 children and I struggle, and he had 4 times that. So he is the man, and I guess inside his subconscious thought, how did you do it?
Hey, that'd be a great question. I don't know. I have one, and he's a joy, but it does take a lot of time, but he's well worth it.
It does.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, guys, for joining us. Go back, listen to the episode. Do your friends and family a service. Don't neglect them. Send them this episode. Yeah. You could send Barry a check for $100,000 and it'd still be too little for all the knowledge that he shared with you this episode. So share this $100,000 worth of life-changing information with your friends and family. You T-ballers, come back for the next episode. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye, everybody.
Welcome to On the Couch and Off Our Rocker with Dr. I'm a Freudnaut, where we review our special guest's TherapyBites Art Lab episode, Psychomalarkey Scale Assessment Results. That's PMS for short.
Barry Nicolaou's resolute romp PMS performance on the quadruple S self-sabotage surmounting scale solidly places him in the 97th percentile. This pioneering paradigm shifter powerfully pokes at the primal pitfalls of self-sabotage, pulling apart persistent patterns of pernicious thought. Nicolaou navigates a nebula of neuroses with a nimble knack for neutralizing negativity. His perspicacious propensity to probe beneath superficial symptoms suggests a striking surfeit of subconscious seepage salve. By instilling a more intimate understanding of our own thought creation, our brain-embiggening Barry nudges us towards self-awareness while simultaneously suppressing self-destruction. He illustrates a unique understanding upliftment utopia in the realm of cognitive restructuring, resolutely reminding us that the thoughts we conceive forms the foundation of our individual realities. His adept application of creative visualization underlines an uncanny understanding unleashing Eurekase, facilitating a fertile framework to form fruitful futures. To support his transformative teachings, I'd promote the prescribing of a precautious but potent 2 milligram dose of IN intraneuronal positivity promotinol, paired with a 2300 milligram IS intracellular reality reorientovir, ensuring a balanced brain diet that bolsters the body's intrinsic immunity to self-sabotage. In conclusion, Nicolaou's nuanced narrative of mastering one's mind and molding one's reality presents a promising pathway for all beleaguered by the bonds of self-sabotage. Dr. Ima Freudnite, Chief Stringstigator, TherapyBites Art Lab.
Grab some of this episode's guest merchandise, specially designed to help keep this episode's message top of mind in your life. Don't forget friends and family members who could use an Art Lab mental boost too. Just go to therapybites.myshopify.com.
Hey, T-Ballers. Thanks so much for being with us today. If we brought value to your day, show us some love by leaving your positive feedback and inviting some friends to listen in. And join the T-Ball team.
Government legal gobbledygook. Not intended as a diagnostic or as an alternative to professional clinical treatment. Resources and advice are for information and entertainment purposes only. Brought to you by... Someone saying things you don't like? Tape that nagging loudmouth shut. Government-approved speech tape. Gas tape. Now available at your local hardware store. TherapyBites Art Lab is not an approved, endorsed, authorized, butt-kissing affiliate of the United States Special Offense Assessment Police. SOAP Police for short. Warning. Consumption of TherapyBites Art Lab content by Kool-Aid drinking, stinking, thinking, social media, pseudo-psychological pushing, wacky woke, anti-free speech, mumbo-jumbo advocates may cause spontaneous internal skull combustion, stomach discomfort, and or laxative effects. Allergy warning. TherapyBites is manufactured in a facility that challenges nutty distortions, processes nuggets of accurate, realistic thinking, and life-affirming beliefs. This is the audio version of the legal fine print. Why are you still listening to this when you can catch the next great episode of TherapyBites Art Lab with a good friend or family member? Really? Are you still there? This is getting silly. Move on to the next psychologically thrilling episode of the best advice on the net. No copay required.
Me eat copay.
Yeah, with Dr. Heath and the T-Ball team. Go ahead, don't be podgoraphobic. Scoot, scoot, scoot. On to the next episode.